Hi guys, Kirshner here. Uh, I'm going to say a few words about a game that I'm going to be running tomorrow with the rules Warfare in the Age of Reason that my buddy Dale Wood and I put together several decades ago. It's been revised since then. This battle is the Battle of Fontenoy. At least the scenario is based on the Battle of Fontenoy. It's not going to be exact, but fairly close. And as you know, this was part of the War of the Austrian Succession. In this part, this is the Western Theater. In the Eastern Theater, Frederick the Great was going after the Austrians in Silesia and so forth. Over here in the West, the French under the Great Marshal de Saxe were invading the Austrian Netherlands, which is today southern Belgium, the area known as Flanders. Okay, so and they were doing this because of the belief that the end of Western civilization was at hand, because a 23-year-old girl was going to become the Empress of Austria, and they couldn't let that happen. So they lined up on either side of that. This army here is the British and Hanoverian force, and they form, along with their Dutch allies, which are not on the board here, they form what was called the Pragmatic Army, which was the army that was trying to assure that Maria Theresa became Empress of Austria. At least that's what they told everybody. The real reason was more in terms of economic and territorial control and so forth. And of course, for the British, anytime the French tried to do anything, the British and the Dutch were against it, just on general principles. Okay, so over here we have the French army, and what we have pan up a little bit here. Over here on the left, this is the village of Fontenoy, and the Dutch army would have been deployed from here that way. I have not included them in the scenario because I don't have the figures painted, but when you look at the actual battle and so forth, it's hopeless for the Dutch. They had to attack across open fields against redoubts and well dug in French infantry or artillery support, and the whole time they were being flanked by 16-pound cannons from across the river, and they never got really very close to the French lines. They were repulsed twice. After the second repulse, they just went to the rear and watched. Supposedly, it was supposed to be coordinated. The English attack, the British attack, coordinated with the Dutch attack. Had that happened, it might have turned out a little differently, but it didn't. They were both uncoordinated. So, all right. So what we have here this is called the Woods of Berry, and what you have in here is a French light infantry unit called the Grenadiers de Grason, kind of the French beginning to experiment with light infantry that could operate in the woods and so forth, and also were crack shots. So these guys are going to be they're going to shoot really well. Over here on this side, on the British side, we have the Duke of Cumberland, who is the commander of the Allied Army, the Pragmatic Army, by virtue of the fact that he was George II's favorite son. He was a pretty good organizer, not so good as a battlefield commander. It was left to his own devices to appoint the generals, and he pretty much appointed all of his drinking buddies, and didn't really give too much of a thought about how good are they as far as actual commanders go. So that was a problem. All right, so the battle, the game is going to start after the British had progressed. They got within very close range, about 50 yards or so, of the French, and delivered their famous volley, arguably the most devastating volley of the middle part of the 18th century. You could certainly make a case for 14 years later, Wolfe's troops at Quebec